Welcome to One Thought at a Time with Ian Travers, where we get curious about what makes us tick. I'm here with a man today who will stop at nothing if it means getting behind the wheel of a race car. Welcome, Rich Marsh.
Hi.
That's true, right?
Oh yes. Hope my wife doesn't see this, but yeah.
Rich, I know we've spoken over many years now, but thanks for taking the time to come today. Let's make a start by telling everyone what you do.
So I'm classed as a lean consultant. I actually own a lean consultancy, so I have some people that work for me and some contractors that work for us as well. So that's sort of what the core day job is. I've done that for, it's ticking on 20 years now. And before that, I'm actually one of those, the consultants that came out of Toyota. I was at Toyota on day one, pretty much. It was empty when we walked in. There was no equipment. It was just a big shed.
This is Toyota at Derby.
Toyota manufacturing, car manufacturing at Derby, yes. Yeah. So I was there, started as a team leader, of which there was about 200 of us in that particular role at the time. Literally, there was no equipment. Where the lines were, there was just a big concrete trough. There was nothing. And so we were there for 2 weeks, where they taught us a little bit about the philosophy and the sort of role. And bizarrely, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know if I was body shop, paint shop. I just knew I was a team leader, and this was my salary. I mean, just imagine that now. What? Fortunately, I got the body shop, because if I got the paint shop, I probably would have gone home, because having found out what they do all day, it's not really what I do. But anyway, so we had 2 weeks in the offices with being trained on the philosophy and everything, and about Toyota and the history and blah blah blah. Straight on a Japanese airline to Tsutsumi, the sister car factory, right, where they stuck a 6'4" guy on a Japanese car line. So I've had back issues ever since, because it was about a foot too low.
Right.
But we did that. Then we got sent to Kentucky because Kentucky was it was a Camry factory, and it was sort of 5, 6, 7 years ahead of us.
Right.
So we got sent to Kentucky, where they very kindly said, "This was what we didn't understand, and don't make these mistakes." So it's really useful, actually. So there's how to do it, and then don't make these mistakes, lads. And then off we went, and we worked with Pickfords and literally installed the equipment. We drew the lines, the centre lines of the equipment on the floor, and it started to arrive in boxes from Japan. And we installed it, commissioned it, and ramped up from a few cars for testing, and then ramped up the production cars from this. This definitely happened. I went to my boss. We made 16 on a Friday, and on the Monday we were due to make 25 or something, and I was like, "It's not possible, boss." And he's like, and he was from this, and he's, "I've got news for you. You're making 200 in about 6 weeks." So you better pull your finger out, because it was just the ramp up is to find all the faults and the problems and the bottlenecks, etc., etc. So, but for a newbie like me, it's like, there's no way we can. It's took us all day to make 24.
Yeah, he's having a laugh.
Can't comprehend this at all. But I did that. We was in at the right time, so there's quite a few of us actually that it went from 1 shift to 2 shift, and we got promoted. So and if you were on that sort of, you made the first promotion, it worked quite well, because Toyota grew and grew, and then it plateaus.
Yeah.
And that's when you get the sort of mass exodus where you've just been promoted and you're doing a job and they build this beast that keeps getting promoted or sent on a different job where you're learning. I got put into the internal consultancy, which dealt with the sort of cross-department problems that Kaizen wouldn't deal with, because you're getting across management chains and all sorts of things. And that was, another 2 years of Japanese sensei, as the outside world calls them, training you in even deeper knowledge of the Toyota production system. And then they said, "Right, you're going back on the line now, doing your old job." It's like,
Really?
That doesn't sound very good. What happened to the development? And so when it sort of plateaus, that's when people leave, because your boss has been promoted 4 weeks before you. He's not going anywhere. And suddenly you think, "Oh, my career's stalling. I've only been promoted."
And is that when you took the leap?
Yeah. I mean, it's a coincidence. So you don't leave a job unless you're looking to leave a job. So I wasn't thrilled that I'd been put back in my old job. There's a few other things went hard as well that's not quite for me. Toyota is a fantastic place. I speak very, very highly of it. But it is stick to this process. Look at the cars. It's like there's nothing too out there. It's always, they're almost like front end of a Vauxhall, back end of a something. They're all quite conservative. That's what Toyota do. We've got this process. We adhere to it. If you start to try and poke around it and push a bit too far, they won't let you. Rightly so, because that's not their system. So it's more it gets to a stage where it's just grind this out, do this. Not robotic at all. It's not switching your brains off at all. That's a massive understatement, because they use the brains of their staff more than others that I've seen since I've come out. But for me, I was a bit too pokey, wanting to do let's try this, let's try that. And it was more, let's keep it a bit calmer. And I was like, I don't really want to just do this. The idea of being on shifts for the rest of my life, just running a body shop was...
Yeah.
It was like, okay, great. But then what happened was a consultancy company had won a gig in Detroit, and Ford had said, we want a global partner to roll this out. We're starting in Europe next. One of the Americans from the consultancy came over, plonked himself in Dagenham, and just started sticking his fishing hook into Toyota. And he got a few out, and then I was something like number 12, I think I was, that came out. We went on to work with Ford Europe for sort of 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
So that took me out of manufacturing and into consultancy.
Yeah.
And I was with those 9 years, I think. I've finished up as I ran the show. I was global VP. Be careful what you wish for, because big chief spreadsheet man.
Right, yeah.
And that's all I did was reporting to Detroit, where my president sat. I actually finished up in charge of Detroit as well, but I was just pushing spreadsheets around and a little bit of looking over the top of the job to make sure the team are doing it. But the team of directors underneath me were so strong, I wasn't doing it. I was more pressing the flesh because of my position. It was
so. The be careful what you wish for piece there is that this was progression. But then as you move up, you suddenly realise that actually this isn't doing what I really, really want to do.
Yeah. I like to... Don't get me wrong, if I go into I'll run... I got there running projects well. So I'd go in, so we run a huge, huge global one with a train manufacturer. And me and a couple of other guys went in, figured out what the problem was. It was actually an engineer who found what the real problem was. But then we created it into a system. And then I rolled that out, and we did literally globally. We every train in the UK that was bombarded was touched.
Yes.
And we did New York Metro, was all over the place, Amtrak all over the place, and it was working. So success is fun as well. Even though I spent more time in the sky than on the floor, flying around sorting this stuff. And I really enjoyed that. Now, I will get bored once I've decided what the process is. I don't want to be there to do it. It's like, I've figured out what it is. I'm bored now.
Is it the chase and the problem fix that is the...
It's defining the problem fix. The chase I don't particularly like.
Right.
Anyway, I finished up doing that. I really enjoyed that. What I don't really enjoy is being the next tier above that, where I honestly had a boss ask me, why have you done less revenue in February? And I said, we charge by the day and there's less days. And he asked me what I was going to do about it. So I said, what, are we doing the Mayan calendar now? What do you want to do? And we go. And I was like, I've got to get out of here. This is. And he was, I actually liked the chap, don't get me wrong, and he was supportive of me, but some of his behaviours I started to pick up, because you do, from your boss. And he's like, I don't want those. I'm getting out of here.
Right.
So I literally stepped out of consultancy for quite a few years and said, one, I'd got, my daughter was on her way, so that's not great if you're in Detroit and you've got no choice. So we, as a family, have decided it was better I changed. I had this fantastic idea to start a touring car team.
So, right, in the middle of all this.
Oh, it was much better in the middle of a financial crisis.
Yeah, of course.
So that's
a British
small
touring
point,
car
but vital. Okay. That we started in. Would that be 2007? Anyway, so we were sort of semi-works Alfa Romeo touring car team.
Right.
That's a good way to make someone wealthy, not wealthy. Not that I was wealthy, but I was a lot less wealthy afterwards. That was horrendous.
So from that career, how was there an interest there? What
So
happened? How did you end up doing that?
So when I was, I'm Derbyshire boy. We've got Minis and RS2000 Mark IIs. That was our thing when we were 17, and so we were car guys. Me and all my mates were car guys. We'd shoot off to Chatsworth every time the RAC rally was there. We'd be up in the woods somewhere. We've sneaked in. And we're watching it up there, and it was fantastic. And then I got a couple of Minis, and then I had an RS2000, and I'm playing with it. I've bolted some twin 45 Delortos on it. I'm doing all the work. And then that got stolen, so I bought a Volkswagen Corrado. And I opened the bonnet and went, I don't even know what that bit does. I don't know what that is. I've no idea what that bit does. So it was, but we were car guys. I was working at Toyota, and I don't know if it was in Autosport or something, but the Jim Russell Racing School was at Donington.
Right. And
Donington was owned by the Wheatcrofts. And this school was quite serious, but it was more a single-seater school. And
there's one of the previous guests on here, Andy, who is now Minis and Motorbikes. He had similar. He had stories of that driving school too.
Yeah. So there was it was a big competition and they used to come from all over the world because a Canadian won it. There's a Formula Vauxhall Junior, and whoever, I can't quite remember how it was. So there's a course every month, and it was a whole week, and I was in Vectras, but there was a Formula Vauxhall Junior, and whoever won that, and then at the end there was a shootout for all the 6 or 8 courses that ran. Whoever won the shootout got a fully funded Formula Vauxhall Junior drive. So you can imagine they're coming far and wide for that. Yeah. The Americans are coming over, the Australians are coming over, the Scandinavians are coming over. Kimi Räikkönen was in Vauxhall Junior at one stage, but it was all UK motorsport. So these guys were coming over, but then on the side of that, they tagged on same course, but for Vauxhall Vectras, for touring car drivers. So I'm sat, and it was, I can't remember, it was something like $2,000. It was a lot of money at the time for a guy on 13. It was like, I want to do that. So I saved up and went and did it. And at the end of it, there's a race. And if you've been on that race, if you've been on the one before, you can turn up and pay just to enter that race. So there's about 15 of us racing. Some of them have done this. We're all novices, but some of us done the course, and then there's everyone who's on. Actually, there's more. There's everyone who was on this course is there for that one race on a Sunday, and I won. And that was when the problem started.
Right.
So I was like, I'm quite good at this.
Right.
And anyway, So I actually did a couple. I did a part. I hadn't got much money at all, so I did a couple of those extra races, because that's all I could afford. And then eventually, I think I got promoted, and I took the plunge into Fiestas.
Right.
So I bought a car on finance. Don't do that.
You didn't tell them you were using that for racing, did you?
Might not have.
Yeah.
Bought a car. And placed it with one of a good team, the team that had won the year before, Colin Stankham. He's not very flashy, but Colin is a great guy at getting people into that level of motorsport, not messing them about. Colin would not charge you for something if you were struggling financially. That is just unheard of.
Yeah.
And so I got a lot of praise for Colin because he helped me, and some of the bills I didn't pay until December the following year, because it took me all that time, and he was fantastic. Anyway. So I raced in Fiestas, and then Fiestas did 2 or 3 part seasons of that. I did okay, but literally my championship was Colin Turkington, Gordon Shedden, Gareth Howell, Nick Padmore, who's now world champion in classics,
right,
and professional. All 4 of those are professional. There's others as well, but those there's 6 touring car champions, as in the Colin Turkington and Gordon Shedden. I think they've got 6 between them.
Right.
Gareth Howell is he now is the chief test driver on the Murray fan car. Comes through McLaren. He's won everything he gets in. He's my pro actually. That's in the car. But Gareth's a friend of mine, and then there's 6'4" me. These are all like 16, these kids are as well. The 6'4", 30-year-old me that's like half as heavy again. And Maxi Jazz, the lead singer of Faithless.
Right.
Me and Maxie qualified next to each other at Brands Hatch. I remember it well because my instructor says, you'll be there with your foot on the clutch with your leg, and you are. You're like,
Yeah.
And both of us were like, how have we got ourselves here? What are we doing? This is madness. and everyone I've met who, when it's you would happily, if someone said, would you like me to get in and drive? You go, bingo, that's a great idea. I'm off.
And is that the nervous energy at that point?
Yeah. Once you've done it, it's literally the first time you've done it.
Yeah.
You've done it. But my friend who's another guy, same sort of career history to me, he went into GT Cup and he'd been doing some testing in an Aston GT4. He was at Donington and he's like, do you want to put my helmet on and you do it? I was like, I'm not. I don't want to pay for it, mate. Because I don't care. He's like, just you do it.
And all this is going on at the same time that you're in your career.
Toyota, yeah. So it's really not quite sure how that got funded, if I'm honest. There's probably a lot of credit cards involved and a lot of pain. So Toyota, when I started, I was 30, I think, and I started doing the Formula Vauxhall, and I tried to get Toyota interested because at the time, the Honda had a team. Honda factory had a one-car touring car team. The lads the factory people used to run it with a bit of guidance from a professional, and they had a professional driver in it, but I was like ignoring that bit. I was putting myself forward for that role, but could never get them to bite. It wasn't the right time in their cycle. They were still growing, whereas Honda had levelled off and was slightly different. And then
you've got all this. You've got this sensible work going on, and you've got this passion growing. Getting behind the wheel of a car. What were those around you saying to you at that point? Were they, go, make your money in motor racing, or were they saying, steady on down? You're mad. Okay, tell me a bit more about that.
So it was obvious I'm never going to be a pro in motor racing. They start when they're 6, and they're not 6'4". Yeah, it was clearly a hobby, but then once I'm into something, I want to do it. So it was, and it's the same now, and you'll see it with the mini boys. They all have this aspiration. I want to be a touring car driver. This sacred. People think you're cool if you're not cool, but they think it's the pinnacle. Yeah. The reality on that grid is most people are paying to be there. There's not many that are being paid. There's a lot more in British GT that are being paid to be there. Yeah. A lot more. The pros would go to GT racing because that's where the money is. Touring cars, you've got to bring your money with you. People think that they're being paid a fortune, but they ain't. There's not the same amount of money sloshing around, so there's no way they're being paid huge amounts of money.
So I know when we first started talking, I forget how many years ago it was now, you were talking about, what success was for you in motorsport. So tell me a bit about, what were your aspirations then? What's happened? What are you aspiring to do next in that space?
So I was one of those that I want to be in touring cars. That looks cool. That looks more fun. It's the main event. Actually, my logic was, it's the main event. It'll be easier to get sponsorship because they've got the TV, they've got the stronger branding. And the reality is you have to get more sponsorship, so it's just as hard. Yeah. But so I went into that, and actually I had someone who I was working with who he landed Varta Batteries as a sponsor. And he says, you can drive that car. And anyway, we knew it was awful, but I'm like, well, it's free. I'm getting in. Yeah. But possibly a mistake because it was awful. And you've seen what it's like driving an awful car. It can destroy you mentally, but it can also, it ruins your possibility of sponsorship because sponsors say, what did you do last year? Well, I didn't finish most of my races because the car fell to bits or whatever. Yeah. Literally, I got in once and the engineer says, the gearbox will blow up before you get over the finish line, over the start line. Okay.
That's great for confidence.
Yeah. So it was like, and I was working with the guy at the time and we was having a bit of fun, but it was like, we weren't motor racing. We were out on it. We were not motor racing. We were not in that race at all. And so I sort of helped with that. And I'm thinking, well, the car's got a bit better the year after, but it was still awful. It was awful. And then I sort of managed to get a bit more funding myself, and that was when I was going to buy an Integra, which was cleaning up at the time. They were coming to the end of their life, but for a independent, buying an Integra was the sensible thing to do. Yeah, reasonably low cost to run, and Team Dynamics, who built them, would help us. We know them well. They were very good at supporting their customers that had bought a car off them. They'd give you all the data they had. They were really good. So it's like, we're going to do that. And then a now friend of mine, Gary Ailes, who's an ex-touring car, ex-Le Mans driver, Gary says, we can get 2 factory Alfa Romeos. Oh, these sound good. And the brand was great, and I was working in some of the agencies in London. A friend was helping me, and they were very interested in the Alfa Romeo brand. And I actually got an offer of 400 grand for both cars, so 200 grand a car.
Yeah.
And my teammate says, not a chance. I want more. I'm like, what do you mean? You haven't got anything. So it just became a nightmare. But also Alfa Romeo, who there's a lot of politics in motorsport, and Alfa Romeo are Italian, and the championship, I think it was a European championship, it might have been called the World at the time, but it was run by Italians. And let's just say the cars we got weren't the same ones that they were using. It's probably reasonable to say. And mine was actually Giovinazzi's car, and he was then in the Vauxhall, and I called him over to say, my car won't turn under these circumstances. Can you help me? And I'm no threat to him. So he came over and he went, where's the rest of it?
Oh, really?
I was like, I don't know. What do you mean? He's like, well, that's different. Oh, great. So what became very apparent was, even though I'd got to touring cars, it was costing a fortune, and I wasn't in the race. I'm not good enough. I'm a gentleman at best. I'm not even that, I'm not a top gentleman either. There's guys who are committing hours of time and millions of pounds, some of them. I'm reasonably experienced in time, but not as in started when I was 30, now 50.
Yeah.
But I'm not particularly experienced in time in a car. If you look, you'll see I'm not in it. But testing, it's like, what's that? Haven't got that budget. I've had a seat fitting on the Friday in the garage at Brands Hatch.
Yeah.
And I've been on the grid on the radio going, what res do I start? Check that out for prep.
It's interesting because you mentioned Le Mans a little while back, and tell us the story about Le Mans, because you've actually raced at Le Mans, right?
I not in the main race.
No.
So I've not raced in the Le Mans 24 hours, is what people call Le Mans. But I've raced on the Saturday morning of the main race. There was quite a few thousand people staring at us. And that was the work we were doing, where it was weird things start to happen. So as you know, I'd listed all the things that I wanted to do, and one of them was race at Le Mans. Now, don't get me wrong, it was race in the 24-hour of Le Mans, thinking that's a ridiculous target, but shoot high.
Yeah.
But it was also thinking that's several years away, but if we can work to that would be fantastic. That really is ticking boxes. Literally less than a year later, my friend who I was on about with the Aston says, there's a race at Le Mans, a support race in the morning, and it's this much money, and do you want to share with me? Yeah. So off we went.
So off you went to Le Mans.
I honestly, this definitely, I'm not making this up. So it was Dean's car, so one of the things of Le Mans, rolling start. So it's his car, says you do the rolling start, because I'm thinking, I do not. Because you've been there since Tuesday. I do not want to destroy this guy's car. He doesn't even get a go, on race day. He can do that. It's his car. And he's giving me a sort of good deal.
Yeah.
So you get to go first. So he goes out first. He's got a lot less car experience to me. So he was very, very nervous. And one of the things, I suppose, racing in touring cars and British GTs, you learn the crowd and the size of the event doesn't particularly faze you.
Yeah.
In a British touring car race, there's more focus on you on that than there is on a support race at Le Mans. Nobody cares in the crowd. They're watching it, but they don't know who you are. They don't care. And it was a fun race as well. There's Chris Hoy's in it. Martin Brundle's in it. There's the boss of Aston Martin in it. Chris, the Top Gear guys in it. There's Vulcans at the front. There's Works Jeep Le Mans cars in there as well. There's some serious kit, and at the back of us there's about 25 of us in Aston GT4s.
Yeah. So
we're like the plebs at the back. There's most of us because that's the cheapest car to run, but no one cares. Everyone's interested in the Vulcans and the celebs and whatever. Anyway, I'm stood on the and my teammate was really worried, so I'm like the senior of the team. So I'm having to keep him calm. So just do it, keep out of the way. You've got nothing to prove. We're not trying to win anything. We'd had problems with a gearbox, so we'd qualified 29th. So it was. This is fun. We're not in this race at all. And there was categories. So in ours, I think we were 19th in our category. So we're towards the back. I'm like, just go enjoy it. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I'm completely relaxed. It's like, he's going to give me the car. There's loads of people on the track. So it's not like we're all jammed together. You're going to be spread out. I'm going to do 2 or 3 laps because they're long laps and we haven't got that long. We're in 20 minutes I was in. Job done. Go and watch the race, and we get to go on the track. The track is awesome. The track is sell your granny sort of stuff. It's like, I need to do that again. That is just amazing. How they do it at the speeds they go around. He's like, whoa, they're good. But I was stood waiting, and the engineers comes across and says, Dean's coming in this lap. And I can remember, and I just put my helmet on, I turned round, and Tom Christensen, Mr. Le Mans, looking all tanned and like very wealthy, literally stood there, and I went, oh, hello, Tom. And I put my helmet on, I went, hold my water and watch this. I got in the car, and he was stood there like, oh, no, he's a
that quote, I love that, hold that, watch this.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking, do not destroy it on the way out. And then the car was working great, and this is it's almost a regret. So I'm doing all right. I'm overtaking cars. I'm thinking this is good. I'm driving around a little bit of a gearbox problem, so I'm thinking I'm doing okay. I'm having fun. I've overtook some of the celebs and all that, but you'd expect that, the celebs. And anyway, this one car comes flying past me through the Porsche curves, which are pretty scary. If I probably went around Le Mans track 15 times tops, and you're working your way. It's a long thing, so you're working your way through, and the Porsche curves are kind of at the end. That's the bit that you think, I'm not going to risk, because I get this wrong, as some did. You're going home. Your car's going to be destroyed. It's not my car, so I'm sort of reasonably sedate through there. It's quite a tricky corner fast. This guy comes honking past me in a GT4, so I'm thinking, well, if that's what some of the kids are doing, I'm not even in this race. So I tried to keep up with him a bit, but he was gone. Turned out a local French guy. He actually won our category.
Right. I
came 4th.
Wow.
And I didn't know, because no one was paying any attention. And we'd overtaken. Dean had done some. 4th in GT4. Fastest out, and was catching the person in 3rd, and then we find out there's a podium. It's like, that's awkward.
And do you think some of that is because you're saying, well, we're just going to have fun, so we were just going to go and
yeah, totally relaxed. And I've been on my sim for ages, and so I kind of arrived knowing where the track went. I was quite well prepped, but didn't care. And it was like, but I wasn't on the limit, because it was like the priority number 1 was give Dean his car back, because I'd have won the bill for an Aston Martin with a new front end.
4th.
But we came 4th, yeah. Dean still winds me up now. You should have come 3rd there. We'd have a trophy at Le Mans,
and that comes from being careful what you wish for. Because that was something in you. I think you said things just started to happen, and that was just something you were just so focused on, and then it pops up.
It's the way I just is you see them. So that probably would have happened anyway. There's probably one last Le Mans, and I have no idea what. I think it was a Carrera car. I don't know. But when you're looking for it, you're not looking for it. You're going to wonder where's a drive for Le Mans. But when you're sort of, I don't know, it
comes to you.
You hear it.
Yeah.
You've got to what? You've got to.
The opportunity seems to present itself.
You either pick it up, or it was weird. I see Morgan Freeman and Will Smith. I don't know if they're great examples, but they're sat there going, "You can do whatever you want to do," and they're touching on the same space. They're saying, "Mate, if you want to be an astronaut, decide you want to be an astronaut and crack on."
Yeah,
and
believe in yourself.
Now, don't get me wrong. If I sit there and go, "I'd quite like to be centre forward for Man United," you got to have some reality check on what you do, and maybe there's some that what you believe is achievable, someone else wouldn't believe was achievable. So, if I put a picture in my head that says I can achieve, like touring cars, if you sat there, you're earning 13 grand bolting doors on in a car factory, you're probably not going to be able to muster up 300 grand to go and be a touring car driver at the time. But we got on it.
And lots of disappointments in the way that probably made you tempted to walk away.
Yeah. What I realised was, I'm not in this race. I'm on the grid. I'm not in this race. I'm just making noise at the back. I'm literally making noise and burning tyres. And I'm not. And my wife says, "You seem to be spending money to annoy yourself." Coming home, and she'd be like, "What's a motorsport? There is no middle ground. It's either that was epic and you've probably got a trophy, not always, but it was epic, or it was awful. You don't come home with, what was it like? No, it's all right. There is no middle ground, is there? There's fantastic or
not.
Or very much not. So I used to be a footballer, and regionally I was all right. I was quite good, captain of the school, played for the sort of region, that sort of thing. And I'd walk onto a pitch and I'd be like, right, well, and then you know each other when you're playing regionally. It's like, yeah, you ain't going to beat me. We'll win this. Or if we don't win, this guy ain't going to do anything that I'm marking. So I'd be like, yeah, they ain't going to beat me. We might not win, but this guy's, I've got him in my pocket. Sometimes proven very wrong.
Yeah.
But that would be my behaviour. When I got to touring cars, even Fiestas, because he's like, karting champions and all sorts, it was like, I suddenly started going, well, he's better than me, he's better than me, he's better than me. And guess where I finished? Where I'd mentally prepared myself to be, that's where I fit in. And then you see some kid come out who I'd never heard of, jump into a touring car for one day and stick it like fourth or fifth. Well, that's not how it works, son. Right. We don't know who you are, get back there. Yeah. But they got none of that. They're like, I want to be a touring car driver. This is my one shot. I need to drive really well.
They hadn't put any of those barriers in their way.
Haven't put any of those barriers in there. And they'd be better than me as well, don't get me wrong. But what suddenly was like, hang on a minute, GTs is me's. There's the me's of the world. At the time, by the time I'd realised, the sort of businessmen, as they call them the gentleman driver. Half the time you're funding it as well for the pro in the other side, which is what we do with Gareth. It's like, well, actually, now I'm back in the game now. So as an AM, I can hold my own. I'm not the best, but I'm nowhere near the worst.
And is that where that belief thing then changes?
Totally. And I even remember the day it happened.
Suddenly that
belief I was like, there. As an AM, I can hold my own. As a pro, they're 2 seconds quicker, 1.5 seconds quicker, whatever it is, more in the wet.
But suddenly that belief was like you were on the football pitch. Suddenly there was that confidence.
It's like, okay, try and I can do this. I have no reason to doubt. Because my role is simple. I haven't got to beat the pros. If there's a pro out and he drives off, it doesn't matter. So that was when it changed very much so. And then a few years later, I went into GT Cup and we won the first 6 or 8 races.
That's amazing.
Money then, but it was
what a journey. So from Toyota at its startup through to Link Consulting, somewhere along the line get bitten by the motorsport bug.
Yeah.
To Le Mans saying, hold that, watch this. So I'm going to ask you one more question. Mm-hmm. So knowing what you know now, if we could crack time travel, let's assume we can, and you could leave yourself a note in an envelope for the younger Rich Marsh, what note would you leave yourself knowing what you know now, do you think?
Motorsport-wise, would be do it properly or not at all. The advice I'm giving my children, so my daughter's 17 now, just going to college, and my advice to her is do what you enjoy, because you've got to do that for the rest of your life. So I've had a job, as I mentioned, that I don't want to fly to Detroit to look at spreadsheets. You've got no choice. You're in it. So you look to get yourself out of it. But that's not fun. Well, you don't. I think if you enjoy it, you will succeed at it. You can define what succeed is. That's different for different people.
Yeah.
But my advice to them is do what you enjoy, because if you enjoy it, I think you'll get to be rather good at it, because you're going to, aren't you?
That's brilliant.
You won't just do 9 till 5 if you enjoy it. It's not a job. That's what I think, for sure.
Rich, we could chat for ages and ages. Thank you ever so much for that today. Thanks for being my guest on here.
Enjoyable.
So that has been One Thought at a Time with Ian Travers and my guest this time, Rich Marsh. If you have enjoyed the conversation, please do like and share, and look at the rest of our chats in our back catalogue. You can also find us on Spotify, on Apple Music, and also on YouTube. Look forward to seeing you next time.